The spring portal is open and Syracuse has some big needs to fill.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And of course, we are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are going to talk about Syracuse football's transfer portal needs this spring, as well as some of the players they are already being linked to in the spring portal window. In case you all have missed it, the portal has been opened since April 16th and will remain open until April 25th. It gives everyone in college football another chance to enter the transfer portal. There are clear needs for Syracuse football, along with any team in the country, or at the very least, every team is at least looking at certain position groups, trying to upgrade using the spring portal. And for Syracuse last year, it was actually quite good. They got Clarence Lewis from Notre Dame, a starting corner that turned out to be all conference. They got Savion Washington, a starting tackle for Syracuse, who I also believe was an all conference player. So if you're smart, it can be fruitful. The spring portal, that is. I should preface this by saying here with these needs that whether or not you agree or disagree doesn't necessarily matter, because these are the position groups that the Orange have so far been connected to in the spring portal window. For example, you may not agree that Syracuse should add a quarterback in the spring portal, but I'm telling you right now, they are looking at one. They're trying to add on at least one quarterback, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So these are the position groups that Syracuse has been linked to. In no particular order, you got the offensive line. Syracuse has already lost a couple of offensive linemen in the spring portal. David Woolaba, a tackle, and Enrique Cruz, a tackle. Both, I believe, are projected to be backups, so it makes sense. That being said, you still have to replenish the depth on the offensive line. Syracuse is also going after linebacker help. They're going after a wide receiver, maybe even two wide receivers, especially because a certain all-conference wide receiver left Syracuse earlier this week. We don't really have to talk anymore about that. Secondary is also a need for Syracuse football. They brought in Fresno State corner Julian Neal for a visit earlier this week, so we'll continue to monitor that. That would be a great pickup for Syracuse football. Please, 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 Syracuse, go get him. And, well, let's circle back to the quarterback conversation, because Fran Brown has stated that they are looking to add a quarterback, someone with experience. And they have already brought in a quarterback for a visit during this cycle, Zach Gibson from Georgia State, who has over 600 career passing attempts. Now, if you have been following along this offseason, you would know that Syracuse has already added a quarterback in the transfer portal. It happened in the first portal cycle. Obviously, Syracuse, they had to replace Kyle McCord, who was out of eligibility. And even though he was fighting for another year, he decided to just screw it and enter the NFL draft. Hopefully, he goes as high as possible. Just don't go to the New York Jets. That's neither here nor there. They had to replace Kyle McCord, and they ended up with LSU's Ricky Collins. Fran Brown has spoken very highly of Ricky Collins ever since he got him. He named him the starting quarterback recently, even though he didn't play in the spring game with a hand injury. All signs say that he'll be good to go for fall camp, and Fran Brown has said, hey, he's our guy. He has publicly backed him on multiple occasions, including in the interview talking about a certain all-conference wide receiver that left the team. That being said, they're still looking to add on another quarterback. It's going to be probably one with experience. The question is this: are they looking to add a quarterback who can maybe be the backup? Or are they looking for a quarterback that could challenge Ricky Collins to be the starter. More on that in just a second. So Zach Gibson, who they've already brought in for a visit, is in that first category. Yeah, he's got 600 career passing attempts. He's got experience, but he's not challenging Ricky Collins for the starting job. He's not. I don't think he's good enough to challenge Ricky Collins. Now, could he maybe challenge Jakari Williams for the backup job? Sure. Maybe he would be insurance in case Jakari Williams decides to enter the transfer portal himself. That's possible. But the bottom line is that if Zach Gibson commits between now and by the time you are watching or listening to this podcast, just know that he's probably a backup type of quarterback. Probably. But there's another name that I want to throw at you. He's from Notre Dame. He entered the portal recently, and he's got some Syracuse ties. Steve Angeli. Steve Angeli has played sparingly for Notre Dame over the past couple of seasons. And he's only got 80 career passing attempts. That's not a lot. But he has been really good in that very small sample. How good? How about over 70% completion percentage? Okay, that's a good start. Over 11 yards per attempt. That's really good. 10 touchdowns in 80 pass attempts. And 1 interception. So I know it's not a lot. Only 80 passing attempts that's not a lot. But hey, how much better can you really do? The connection's there. Steve Angeli was offered by Syracuse in the 2022 recruiting cycle. Obviously, that was a different regime, but it's deeper than just being offered. A lot of players are offered by Syracuse or any other school. It doesn't mean that 2 years later, all of a sudden, like, yep, things have changed. Actually, things have changed for Syracuse football between 2022 and now. But the point being is that just because they were offered a few years ago does not necessarily mean that Syracuse or any school would still be interested in the quarterback. The real connection is this. Steve Angeli's high school coach is the brother of current Syracuse quarterback coach Nunzio Campanelli. So you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. And I would not be surprised if Syracuse showed interest in Steve Angeli. However, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Syracuse will not end up with Steve Angeli, even though I think it would be awesome. I think Steve Angeli could come to Syracuse and, at the very least, challenge Ricky Collins to be the starting quarterback in 2025. I could see that. In fact, I could see him beating out Ricky Collins in fall camp. That's right. But I don't blame Steve Angeli, because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that he probably wants to go somewhere where he's going to be handed the starting job. And who could blame him, right? He didn't really get his time to shine at Notre Dame. He wasn't going to be the starting quarterback there, evidently, because if he was, he probably does not enter the transfer portal. He's probably going to want to go somewhere where he'll be guaranteed the starting job. And at Syracuse, I don't know if Syracuse can offer him a guaranteed starting job. I think at the very least, or at the very most, they can offer him the opportunity to compete with Ricky Collins. But I don't see Fran Brown saying all this positive stuff about Ricky Collins and how he's our guy and we're so excited for him. And then all of a sudden turn around, get Steve Angeli and say, okay, now he's going to be the quarterback instead. I just don't see that happening. I could be wrong. But ultimately, I don't think he ends up with Syracuse. I would keep an eye on it just in case anything happens because there is a direct connection there. But Steve Angeli to Syracuse, probably not. Now, coming up, we'll talk about some other position groups that Syracuse needs, as well as the targets of those position groups. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with free TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and let's continue talking about Syracuse football's transfer portal needs and targets, and we can move on to the wide receiver position because Syracuse has been connected to multiple wide receivers since Trevor Pena entered the transfer portal earlier this week. Let's start off talking about Nitro Tuggle, a 6'1", 190-pound Georgia wide receiver with 3 years of college eligibility remaining. The report came from 24/7 sports recruiting analyst Tom Loy. He mentioned that Syracuse and Indiana are the schools to keep an eye on for Nitro Tuggle. What a great name. Nitro Tuggle. He was a 4-star recruit in the 2024 recruiting cycle, and he played in 8 games at Georgia as a true freshman and caught 3 passes for 34 yards. I'm going to read you or paraphrase what scouting reports say about Nitro Tuggle because you don't really have a lot of college film on him. I mean, he only caught 3 passes and barely played. Scouting reports from high school suggest that he's long, he's athletic, he's got a good catch radius, and he is very good after the catch. However, he needs to work on his route running and fill into his frame. I mean, filling into the frame is the most common critique of pretty much every single football player at every level, right? It means put on more weight as you grow. I'd like this move a lot. I mean, he played at Georgia a little as a true freshman. He's not far removed from being a 4-star recruit. He strikes me as someone who would have a lot of upside if he comes to Syracuse. And perhaps Syracuse could give him the opportunity that he needs to succeed. In fact, I'm much more excited about Nitro Tuggle than perhaps maybe when Syracuse a year ago got Jackson Meeks. When Jackson Meeks was at Georgia, he had been there for a lot of years. And he only had 1 more year of eligibility left. And he didn't really play a whole lot when he was at Georgia. And obviously, he had to work his way up Syracuse's depth chart, and lo and behold, he blossomed. And oh, by the way, Jackson Meeks at Georgia was a 3-star recruit. Nitro Tuggle was a 4-star recruit in 2024. And he played a little as a true freshman at Georgia. So I think he's got a ton of upside, and I think he would make a lot of sense for Syracuse football and could very easily be one of Syracuse's starting wide receivers if he were to commit to the team. Then you got Jonte Cook, a 185-pound Texas wide receiver with multiple years of eligibility left. He was actually, I believe, committed to Washington earlier in this transfer portal cycle, but decommitted from Washington, and now he is back in the transfer portal. The report linking Syracuse and Jonte Cook was on Friday. It was from Texas reporter Anwar Richardson. Cook is currently on a visit with Arizona State. The other schools that are involved are Houston, Oklahoma, BYU, Indiana, and Arkansas, as well as, of course, Syracuse. Jonte Cook was a former 5-star recruit in the 2023 recruiting cycle. That's right, 5-star recruit. But he has less than 300 career yards over his first 2 collegiate seasons, so he has not exactly lived up to the 5-star hype. That being said, you don't become a 5-star recruit by accident. Obviously, Cook has talent. Now it's, can he develop? Is it too late for him to develop? Does he need the right situation to be able to develop? And we can dive more into Cook's story if Syracuse continues to be linked to Jonte Cook. Bottom line, though, I trust the coaching staff. So if the coaching staff is going to say, hey, he had his issues in the past, we think he can come here and help us, so be it. So those are the two wide receivers they are connected to. Nitro Tuggle from Georgia and Jonte Cook from Texas. Two guys in the SEC. What do you think of those two players? Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Those seem to be upside moves to me. Do you think that Syracuse should go after someone who is a little bit more proven in the transfer portal? I want to hear from you in the comments section below. Some wide receivers you think Syracuse should go after. Again, whether or not you believe that Syracuse needs a wide receiver or not, they are going after one, maybe even two. And I want to hear from you in the comments section below. Your thoughts on Tuggle, your thoughts on Cook, whether you think they're fits for Syracuse or who else you want to see the Orange go after. Now, coming up, we'll talk about the offensive line. We will talk about linebacker and a little bit of secondary. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. Folks, thank you all for making it to this point of the podcast. I hope you all enjoy it. And if so, if you enjoy this podcast, if you can just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next Locked On Syracuse podcast. We upload pretty much every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And let's get back to evaluating Syracuse football's transfer portal needs, as well as their targets that they've already been linked to. The offensive line is definitely a need for Syracuse, one that I think we can all agree is a need for the team. And again, what I said earlier, whether or not you agree or disagree, these are the position groups that they are going after. But I think we can all agree offensive line is definitely a need for Syracuse football. They've been connected to a few guys. JB Nelson is very intriguing. A 6'5", 325-pound, I believe he's a guard from Penn State with one more year of eligibility remaining. The report that links Syracuse and Nelson came from 24/7 Sports' Matt Zenitz. And the other schools that are involved are two ACC and one Big Ten. You got Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, and Maryland. Nelson was a guard, as I said, I believe, at Penn State. He's played in 31 games for the Nittany Lions. Man, I can't say that word. Penn State over the past 3 years, and that includes 8 starts in 2023. And in that time frame, in those 3 years, Nelson has played 770 snaps. Okay, it's a good bit amount of snaps. Maybe not a lot of snaps per year, but 770 is a good sample for an offensive lineman. And he's only allowed 2 sacks. I'd say that's pretty good. What are your thoughts? 2 sacks and 770 snaps? How about that? That's per Pro Football Focus. I think he'd be a big boost to the offensive line, and he would instantly be a starter for this unit this upcoming season. You got Tyrell Green, a 6'5", ready for this? 355-pound guard from Eastern Kentucky. I believe he has at least 3 years of eligibility remaining. The reason why I say at least 3 years and not 3 years or 4 years is because I don't know if FCS counts towards eligibility. Now, maybe I should know, but to be honest with you, I don't know what counts as eligibility these days. I mean, we got phantom eligibility all around the country. Diego Pavia bought JUCO players all another year of college. So Tyrell Green from Eastern Kentucky, FCS player. Does he have 3 years left? Does he have 4 years left? I don't know. But at least he'll be here multiple years if he decides not to enter the portal and, of course, commits to Syracuse football. That's the good news. That's what really matters. The report that links Tyrell Green and Syracuse comes from 24/7 Sports' Matt Zenitz again, and he's actually visiting Syracuse or scheduled to visit Syracuse from April 23rd to 25th. So this is someone who I'd really keep your eye on here. The other schools who have either already gotten a visit or will also get a visit are Texas Tech and Purdue. Green was an FCS All-American or FCS freshman All-American in 2024. He played over 600 snaps for Eastern Kentucky, and in those 600 snaps, he allowed a grand total of 0 sacks. Yes, the same amount of sacks that I allowed last year. See, I allowed no sacks too. But here's the difference between me and Tyrell Green. He actually played football. I didn't. So that's a good thing that he did not allow a single sack this past season. Now, I know the transition from FCS to Power 4 level is incredibly difficult. I would say it's a lot harder to go from FCS to Power 4 than it is in basketball to go from mid-major to high major. That being said, if this guy Tyrell Green can play, he can play. I don't care where he was playing last year. If they feel he can play in the Power 4 and maybe even be a starter in the Power 4, who am I to question it, right? Finally, Syracuse has also expressed interest in South Dakota tackle Joe Cotton. He's actually one of the better offensive linemen available in the portal as well. This report was days ago, so sorry, I'm a little late to it. And we'll keep an eye out, but I believe that Joe Cotton has already visited Wisconsin. I haven't seen anything other than an initial report linking him and Syracuse together. But we'll keep an eye on Joe Cotton. He is a really good player and probably would be a starter for Syracuse if he were to commit to the team. Finally, let's go to linebacker and cornerback. We'll quickly address cornerback. Now, forgive me, I've only seen Syracuse linked to one player so far in the secondary, and that's Fresno State cornerback Julian Neal. With Neal, we've already talked about him on the podcast, but to give you the Cliff Notes version, he is one of the top defensive players remaining in the transfer portal, and I believe he would instantly be the team's number one cornerback heading into next season. So I would love it if they got Julian Neal. As far as linebacker, well, Syracuse is connected to the top linebacker available over on On3. In fact, this player is number 12 overall in the transfer portal and number 2 best available in the transfer portal over on On3. This is an elite transfer portal player that Syracuse is linked to. It's from Hayes Fawcett. He reported it on Thursday that 22 schools have been connected to Boise State linebacker Andrew Simpson. And Simpson, or at least one of those 22 schools, is Syracuse, which is a good thing. I already listed that he's the second best player overall available in the transfer portal. 24/7 Sports, to be fair, is a lot lower on him. It's kind of the opposite of Julian Neal. 24/7 Sports is really high on Julian Neal. On3 is very low on him. It's the other way around with Andrew Simpson from Boise State. This would be a huge boost, regardless of wherever he ranks, to Syracuse's linebacking unit. He greatly upgrades their defense. He plays weak side linebacker, 40 career games. That's good. So he's got experience in 3 years. 141 tackles. I like that. 32 tackles for loss in 3 years. That's good. I like that. 12 and a half sacks and 3 interceptions. The 2 top weak side linebackers right now in Syracuse football are Anwar Sparrow and true freshman Antoine Delorier. No disrespect to those guys. None. But Andrew Simpson is a better football player, at least right now, than those guys. He greatly helped Syracuse football's defense. So even though they've only been in contact with him so far, I really hope that Syracuse could at least be one of the schools that gets a visit with Andrew Simpson. He would really help Syracuse football's defense. So that just about does it. We've gone over Syracuse's portal needs, position groups, as well as some of the players that they've already been connected to in this spring portal cycle. Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Who do you want to see Syracuse go after? And what do you think they need in the portal? Do you agree with the coaching staff with their needs, or do you disagree with the coaching staff? I want to hear from you in the comments section below. As far as what is coming up on the podcast in the future, Sunday, there will not be a podcast, but Monday, we will resume with most likely more portal coverage. It will either be football or basketball related. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level. Get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. You can find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and I will see you all again soon.